Palmolive Soap, Your Beauty Hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. The daily problems of most teachers are not restricted to the ones they face at school. Our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, is no exception to this rule.
No, indeed. Many of my problems don't begin until I leave school, or before I start to school. This, in spite of the fact that my home life consists of just A, my landlady, Mrs. Davis, and B, our cat, Minerva. Unfortunately, A is extremely absent-minded, and B is allergic to cat hair. Last Friday morning, the three of us were having breakfast together.
Careful, dear. Don't drink so fast or you'll get milk all over you.
Thanks for reminding me, Mrs. Davis. May I have that napkin, please?
Oh, here you are, Connie. You look pretty silly with your whiskers all white.
Well, who wouldn't? Oh, you're talking to Minerva.
Yes. All finished, Minerva. There's a good girl. Now go on into the kitchen and wait for me.
While you're out there, do the dishes. All right, I'll do the dishes.
Oh, don't bother, Connie. You better get ready to go to school. Walter Denton should be picking you up any minute. Of course, you could dust the living room for me if you've got a minute. Those andirons I bought yesterday are pretty dusty.
Andirons? But, Mrs. Davis, we haven't got a fireplace.
That's what I told the salesman, Connie. But he'd carried them all the way up to our door by then.
From where?
From his car. He said it was his first time in this neighborhood.
A door-to-door andiron salesman. Well, that's a new wrinkle.
Yes, he was, Connie. And rather gray, too. That's why I just had to buy them. You'll find the set over by the piano. There's a brush and a sifter came with them.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's burn the piano. I'm sorry, Mrs. Davis. What you buy is your own business, but I don't like to see people take advantage of you all the time.
But Connie, nobody takes advantage of me.
Certainly they do. You're always doing favors for somebody, and most of the time they're practically strangers. Like that night you consented to sit for that couple down the street. You sat all right till 5 a.m.
But they couldn't find anybody else to stay with their children.
A fine litter it was, too. 2 sets of twins, 8 months old and 2 years old.
Oh, it wasn't so bad. They had a lovely phonograph, and I listened to music all evening long. It had a record changer and everything.
You probably set a few changing records yourself that night. Mrs. Davis, you've just got to learn how to say no to people.
Oh, I guess I'm just an easy mark. Well, I'll get on with these dishes.
Oh, that's probably Walter now. Coming! Yes?
Miss Brooks, isn't it? I'm a neighbor of yours, Mrs. Evans. George and I live about a mile from here.
Are you asking me or telling me? Come in, neighbor.
Oh, thank you.
Come into the living room. Sit down, Mrs. Evans.
Oh, you still don't know who I am, do you? Let's see. Belmont Laundry. Does that do anything to you?
Well, they tear my slips once in a while.
Oh, I knew that would do it. It is good to chat with you again, Miss Brooks.
Again? When did you chat with me last, Mrs. Evans?
Right after the holiday.
The Easter holiday?
No, dear. Last Thanksgiving. We were both at the Belmont Laundry to complain about the service. And on the way out, we had a conversation. I said, isn't this laundry getting terrible? And you agreed with me. Now, do you remember?
Of course. I just forgot some of the details.
Well, I know you'll forgive me if I'm brief, Miss Brooks. I've been rather upset lately. It's George.
It is?
Yes, my husband, he isn't a bit well, and that's why we have to make this trip. The doctor seems to think that a week in the country will do him a world of good, so we're going upstate this afternoon. Molly has a farm up there, you know. It's a beautiful place.
If there's one thing Molly knows, it's how to pick a farm.
Oh, but she didn't pick it. Uncle Fred left it to Molly. But George is so attached to peanuts. And, well, Miss Brooks, for just this 1 week, will you take care of peanuts for us?
Well, it's all according. How many bags of them are there?
No, you don't understand. Peanuts is our dog, the cutest thing you ever saw, and he's no trouble at all. I've got him right outside in our station wagon. Come on out and take a look at him.
Oh, but Mrs. Evans, the dog...
We take him with us, but Molly's afraid of dogs. Come along, Miss Brooks. I took the liberty of parking in your driveway.
Yes, I see. Who's that at the wheel, your husband?
No, that's Peanuts.
Oh. Did he drive you down? I mean, what kind of a dog is that, Mrs. Evans?
He's a Dane, of course.
I should have known. He's built just like Lauritz Melchior.
Here, Peanuts. Come on, boy.
How can he get out? The windows are closed.
Well, he opens the door with his teeth. We taught him how when he was just a little puppy, and he's never forgotten it. He's got a wonderful memory.
He should have. His father was an elephant.
Where are you going, Miss Brooks?
I left a crossword puzzle up this tree.
Don't be afraid. He likes you. You see, he wants to make friends. He's talking to you.
Does he talk like that to all his friends?
Come on, Peanut. There's a good boy. Give Miss Brooks your paw, Peanut.
No, thanks. I've got a couple. Look, Mrs. Evans, I don't think we
Well,
can
let's go in the house now so I can give you a few last-minute instructions. Come on, Peanut. You might as well get used to your new home. You're going to be here for a week.
Oh, but Mrs. Evans, I can't accept the responsibility for a dog this size. Besides, this isn't my house. I just rent a room here. Mrs. Davis owns the place, and she couldn't possibly have a dog
the dishes, Connie, and... Oh, I didn't know you had company. Who are these folks, Connie?
These folks, Mrs. Davis, are Mrs. Evans and her dog, Peanuts.
How do you do?
So we meet again, Mrs. Davis.
Again?
We all take from the same laundry.
You know, I was just telling Miss Brooks here how little trouble Peanuts is around the house. He's really a lap dog, you know, but he doesn't require any special attention whatsoever. He'll eat some of whatever you eat, get up when you get up, and go to sleep when you go to sleep.
I hope he's got his own toothbrush. Look, Mrs. Evans, this cottage belongs to Mrs. Davis, and it's up to her.
Oh, don't think about me, Connie. If you want this lovely dog, please take him.
Good night, all.
Oh, thank you, Miss Brooks. And you won't be sorry. Peanuts is loads of fun. Well, I'd better be running along now.
Oh, but where do we get in touch with you
you
if
won't
Peanuts
have to get in touch with us. We'll contact you as soon as we return from the farm. Goodbye, my dear.
Now you've done it, Mrs. Davis.
I've done it. Why, Connie, Mrs. Evans is your friend.
My friend? I only met her once in my life.
Well, it's done now, Connie. Might as well make the best of it. By the way, where is the dog?
Well, he's probably in the kitchen. The door is ajar.
Well, that's funny. I left it closed.
He opens it with his teeth. They taught him when he was a puppy. Come on.
There was a whole leg of lamb on the stove, Connie.
That's right, Mrs. Davis.
Peanuts, you didn't eat that whole leg of lamb.
Oh, Mrs. Davis, we can't afford to feed this dog. Not if we want to eat, too.
Oh, that's Walter Denton, Connie. Shall I answer it?
No, I'll let Walter in. Walter? Say, he hasn't got a dog of his own, has he?
Not that I know of, Connie.
A kid like that? I bet he'd love the idea of taking care of Peanuts for a week. His folks have a big backyard, too. It'd be just the thing. Coming, Walter. Now, whatever you do, Mrs. Davis, keep the dog out of sight until I've prepared him. Well, Walter Denton. Come in, Walter. Come in.
Oh, thanks, Miss Brooks. I'd have been here sooner, but I was dog-tired this morning.
That's a coincidence. Walter, who would you say is a fella's best friend next to his mother?
Stretch Snodgrass. Well, he's mine, anyway. Why, Miss Brooks?
I mean in the animal kingdom, Walter. Who is man's best friend?
Well, out west, they say a horse is.
Right. And next to a horse?
A dog, I guess.
Right again, Walter. Now, what would you do if you could get an animal combining the best features of both?
You don't get it, Miss Brooks.
You will, Walter. For 1 week, I'm offering you absolutely free of charge the opportunity to look after, play with, and be a pal to a wonderful creature named Peanuts.
Peanuts? Oh, where is he?
Right in the kitchen. A friend of mine left him here, but, well, when I thought of how much bigger your backyard is, I just couldn't help it. I knew I'd have to make the sacrifice. Call him, Walter. Call Peanuts.
Well, if you say so, Miss Brooks. Peanuts! Here, Peanuts!
Walter, come down off that piano. You heard a fly.
I'm not worried about his reaction to flies, Miss Brooks. Are you sure he won't bite?
Positive. Come on now, just pet him. He likes you, Walter. Now, give him your paw, boy. Go on. Give him your paw. You, Walter?
Hey, he's all right. Oh, but I couldn't take him home even for a week, Miss Brooks. My folks have started a garden out in the back.
A garden?
Yeah, that's why I haven't got my own dog right now.
Oh, I wish I knew what to do with him. Frankly, Walter, I just can't afford to feed him for a week.
I've got an idea. How about leaving him at Snodgrass's pet shop? You know, Stretch's old man. He's got all kinds of animals down there, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
Perfect, Walter. Then when Mrs. Evans comes back, she can pay his food bill. Come on, Peanut. Oh, just one thing, Walter. I'd better drive today. You can sit in back with Peanut.
In back? But there isn't room back here for both of us, Miss Brooks.
Sure there is. He's a lap dog, Walter. You can sit in his lap.
Well, here's the pet shop, Miss Brooks. We can... Oh, golly, I forgot.
What?
It's closed. Stretch told me his pop was going away for the weekend.
Oh, that's just dandy. Now we'll have to take Peanuts to school.
To school? But, Miss Brooks, Mr. Conklin doesn't allow dogs at school. If he saw Peanuts, he'd blow his top.
Our beloved principal will just have to make an exception, Walter. Besides, this dog is completely outside of Mr. Conklin's jurisdiction.
Well, what do you mean, Miss Brooks?
He happens to be a Danish citizen.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, will continue in just a moment. But first, here is Vern Smith. Here's wonderful news, ladies. Wonderful, wonderful news. Now there's something thrillingly new in Palmolive Soap's famous Beauty Lather. Yes, something thrillingly new. Palmolive's famous Beauty Lather now brings you new fragrance, new charm, new allure.
Millions of women will prefer Beauty Lather Palmolive over all other leading toilet soaps the minute they try it. For Palmolive Soap's famous Beauty Lather now has a new, clean, flower-fresh fragrance for new allure, new charm.
So, ladies, forget all other beauty care and use Palmolive Soap the way doctors advised for a lovelier complexion. Just stop improper cleansing and instead wash your face with Palmolive Soap 3 times a day, massaging Palmolive's wonderful Beauty Lather onto your skin for 60 seconds each time to get its full beautifying effect. Then rinse. That's all. All types of skin, young, older, oily, respond to it quickly. Don't wait another day to try Palmolive's Beauty Lather. You'll be thrilled by its new fragrance, new charm, new allure. Thrilled again by the fresher, brighter complexion doctors prove may soon be yours.
For new loveliness all over, use big bath-size Palmolive in tub or shower.
In spite of my enforced bravado, I was pretty squeamish about getting Peanuts into school without Mr. Conklin finding out about it. Fortunately, we were early, and while Walter parked his car, I was able to hustle the dog into the supply room with a minimum of incident. Of course, a few students we did encounter in the halls will spend the remainder of their adolescence with hanging jaws and bulging eyes, but that was unavoidable. Stretch Snodgrass, Madison's star athlete, known to the faculty as the body beautiful and the head empty, was in charge of the supply room when Peanuts and I arrived.
Hi, Miss Brooks.
Quiet, quiet. This is Peanuts, Stretch.
Oh, I didn't notice him. Nice pooch.
Pooch? Well, you're not seeing him at his best, Stretch. He usually carries a barrel around his neck with a St. Bernard in it. Stretch, we've got to keep him out of sight. Mr. Conklin mustn't find out that he's in school.
Oh, he won't. Mr. Conklin's at the doctor's office. Harriet told me when she gave me the key to the supply room. Her father's getting tested for
Allergies?
Yeah. He won't be in for an hour yet. Harriet said she talked to him on the phone, and he's half shot.
Translation. He's only through with half the shots the doctor's giving him.
Yeah. But don't worry about Peanuts, Miss Brooks. I'll keep him right here in the supply room. Oh, look, Miss Brooks. He's scratching his own back. Isn't it cute? He smiles while he does it.
Don't you? I wonder what he's got back there.
Oh, it's probably just a mild case of hives.
Well, it's certainly clever the way he takes the hives with one paw and beats them to death with the other.
He'll make a great watchdog if I have to leave this place for anything. Can you imagine what a gag it'd be if somebody just wandered in to snitch a pencil or something?
Yeah, a great gag. They'd probably get hysterical permanently.
I've sent for you, Miss Brooks, because I feel that you, of all the personnel at Madison, can keep a cool and level head in time of crisis.
Well, thank you, Mr. Conklin, but
I'm
what is
trying
it-
to be calm myself, Miss Brooks. I shall make every effort to acquaint you with the facts in as brief and concise a manner as is possible.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I returned from the doctor's office about an hour ago, some allergy shots. I was jotting down some possible prizes for the community chest raffle and found myself in need of another notebook.
Yes, Mr. Conklin?
Pending your opinion, Miss Brooks, I have so far failed to notify the police or fire departments. It is my belief that if we can successfully avoid any and all panic, we can ourselves remove the student body and faculty to a place of safety from this danger.
What danger?
Miss Brooks, there's a leopard in the supply room.
Oh, is that all? I mean, that's impossible, Mr. Conklin.
Impossible? But I tell you, I saw it.
Mr. Conklin, you said yourself you've just had some shots. Isn't it possible that what you saw could have been an illusion?
Miss Brooks, I slammed the door on the creature as soon as I saw it, but not until I'd gotten a good look. When I think of those slavering jaws, what they could rend.
What they've already rent. That is, I'm sure the shots had
Come
something...
with me, Miss Brooks. I'll prove to you the shots had nothing to do with it. But for the life of me, I don't comprehend. Miss Brooks, what do you suppose that leopard is doing in the supply room?
Maybe he ran out of something.
Careful, Miss Brooks. That puny door could never hold him if he becomes enraged. Let's tiptoe up to it and listen to the beast.
When I'm calling you...
The beast hasn't got a bad voice. Oh, Stretch, it's us. Mr. Conklin and I. Open up.
Okay. Hi.
Where is it?
Where's what, Mr. Conklin?
The beast. There was a big... It had... Oh. How long have you been in this room, Snodgrass?
Me? Oh, right along, Mr. Conklin. All morning.
You see, Mr. Conklin, it was those shots after all. Now, why don't you go back to your office and lie down for a while?
But I can't understand it. I saw him as clearly as I see you. Clearer. Maybe I'd better get back to my office at that. A lot to do today. I've still got to find a suitable prize for that raffle. Maybe I'll call my doctor. Yes, that's what I'll do. I'll call the doctor. That's what I'm going to do it. The doctor.
Stretch, quick, Stretch. Get him out from under and let's go.
Get who out from under what, Miss Brooks?
Peanuts. You hid him, didn't you, when I told you that Mr. Conklin was with me?
Oh, no, Miss Brooks. Peanut's blue.
He blew?
Yeah. I didn't want to admit it in front of old man Mr. Conklin. But I left the supply room for about 10 minutes, and when I got back, the dog had taken a powder.
He could use some powder. Oh, but this is terrible, Stretch. We've got to find him before Mr. Conklin sees him again. You'd better go directly to the cafeteria and look for him.
Cafeteria? But it isn't lunch period yet, Miss Brooks.
For him, it's lunch period all day. Some of our younger students are still pretty tender, you know. I'll look in Mr. Boynton's biology laboratory. Maybe something in the lab attracted Peanuts. I know there's something that attracts me in there. Now, suppose you get going, Stretch.
Okay, Miss Brooks. I'll report back to you if I find him.
Yes, do that, Stretch. I'll just close up this supply...
Excuse me, Miss Brooks, but I just ran into Daddy in the hall. He's very overwrought.
Well, that's better than being underwrought. Your father's just a little nervous, Harriet. He's been to the doctor, you know.
Yes, I know. That's why he asked me to tell you that you've got to pick out a prize for the community chest raffle tickets we sold last week.
Me?
Yes. The drawing's this afternoon.
Later on, Harriet. Right now, I've got to see a real man about a real dog. Excuse me, Mr. Boynton. I hope I'm not interrupting anything.
Oh, not at all, Miss Brooks. I was just going to have a little snack. Brought some milk and pastry from home. It's Danish.
Danish? Well, don't bite it till you see if it's wearing a license.
What?
Oh, skip it, Mr. Boynton. Do you mind if I look around the lab?
No, Miss Brooks, but what are you looking for?
I'd rather skip that, too, Mr. Boynton. If I tell you, you'll only give me an incredulous look and say, why did you do a crazy thing like that?
No, I won't, honestly.
Well, I lost a dog. It's a Great Dane, Mr. Boynton. I brought him to school this morning.
You brought a Great Dane to school? Why did you do a crazy thing like that?
I knew it. But it's too late for explanations now, Mr. Boynton. I've got to find him.
Of course, and I'll do everything I can to help you, but let's approach this problem in a scientific manner. Take the habits and customs of the creature and go from there.
Fine, but do you know the habits of a Great Dane?
Oh, Miss Brooks, I'm a biologist, if I say so myself. I know the habits of animals from A to Z. Or perhaps I should say from aardvark to zebra. That's a little joke we scientists like to tell.
Well, tell it later on, will you? Right now, we've got to find Peanuts. That's his name.
Oh, well, the Great Dane, also called boarhound, has a keen sense of smell. He's an excellent dog for hunting.
I know. I've been hunting this one all morning.
Tell me, Miss Brooks, where was he when you last saw him?
In the supply room.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's consider for a moment the Dane's remarkable sense of hearing. It's 5 times greater than a man's, you know. Do you think he might have heard anything that made him run away?
Just the one about the aardvark and the zebra.
Please, Miss Brooks, I'm trying to help you. The Dane was originally developed to hunt boars, hence the name boarhound, and he was a cross between...
Oh, pardon me, Mr. Boynton, but you've just given me a very important lead. You say the Dane likes to hunt boars.
That's correct.
Then all I have to do is put myself in his place. Now, if I was hunting for a boar, where would I go?
Well, I'm sure I don't know.
I do. I'd go to the office of the biggest boar at Madison. Mr. Conklin, here I come.
Come in.
Hello, Mr. Conklin. Could I talk to you for a moment?
I suppose so, Miss Brooks. Sit down. This has been a trying day for me, a very trying day.
Yes, I know, Mr. Conklin.
They haven't been able to isolate my particular allergy, and the doctor says it may take some time. Excuse me. Hello. Mr. Allergy speaking. Conklin.
Hello, Mr. Conklin. This is Mrs. Davis. I wouldn't disturb you at school like this, but it's terribly important. I've got to speak to Miss Brooks.
Oh, she's right here, Mrs. Davis. It's for you.
Thank you. Hello, Mrs. Davis.
Hello, Connie. I've just some distressing news for you. Mrs. Davis called and said her husband's doctor discovered that he's allergic to dog hair.
Mrs. Evans? What?
Naturally, they can't keep Peanuts any longer, so Mrs. Evans told me to tell you that he's yours.
Mine? Oh, but I can't... Where is Mrs. Evans? I'll call her back.
I'm afraid that's impossible, Connie. They've just left town for the summer.
Left town? But, well, I'll talk to you about it later on, Mrs. Davis. Thanks, if you'll forgive a lie, for calling.
Everything all right, Miss Brooks?
Huh? Oh, yes. Everything is dandy, Mr. Conklin.
Good, good. Now, about this prize for the community chest raffle, I've been racking my brain. Have you been able to think of anything? What did you say, Miss Brooks?
Me? I didn't say anything, Mr. Conklin. What did you say?
I said...
I thought that's what you said. Mr. Conklin, I think I've got the answer to both your problems.
What?
Well, first, your allergy. Mr. Conklin, do you hang your coat in the closet over there?
Yes, I do.
And did you wear a tan topcoat to school today?
That's right.
How tall is it?
Tall?
Has it got soft brown buttons?
Yes, I think they're brown.
With long eyelashes?
Miss Brooks, what are you trying to...
Grip the arms of your chair tightly, Mr. Conklin. Peanut! Here, Peanut!
Take it away! Take it away!
This is Mr. Conklin. Meet Mr. Conklin, Peanuts. Mr. Conklin, shake hands with the first prize in the community chest raffle.
Eve Arden as our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment, but first...
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl.
Tonight, show him how much lovelier your hair can look after a Luster Cream shampoo. Only Luster Cream brings you Kay Daumit's magic formula blend of secret ingredients plus gentle lanolin. Gives loveliness lather even in hardest water. Glamorizes your hair as you wash it. Luster Cream. Not a soap, not a liquid, but a dainty cream shampoo. Leaves hair fragrantly clean, free of loose dandruff, glistening with sheen. Soft, manageable. Gives new beauty to all hairdos or permanents. 4-ounce jar, $1. Smaller sizes, either tubes or jars. Tonight, try Luster Cream shampoo and be a
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl, you owe your crowning glory to a luster cream shampoo.
And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, the drawing for the grand prize occurred in assembly that afternoon.
Attention, everyone. Quiet, please. Quiet. I'm happy to say that every member of the student body and faculty has contributed something to our community chest drive. And as we promised, there will be a prize for the holder of the winning number, which is 644.
Miss Brooks, let's see your stub.
My stuff? Oh, don't be silly, Walter. I never won a raffle in my life.
Well, you've won this one.
Oh,
644.
No. Oh, no,
There's
Walter.
the winner right here, Mr. Conklin. It's Miss Brooks.
Oh,
Well, congratulations, Miss Brooks. Is there anything you'd like to say?
just one thing, Mr. Conklin.
Tune into another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Palmolive Soap, your beauty hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written and directed by Al Lewis, with music by Wilbur Hatch. Mr. Boynton is played by Jeff Chandler, Mr. Conklin by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Gloria McMillan, Leonard Smith, Mary Jane Croft, and Pinto Colbeck.
Men, do you shave with a lather or brushless shave cream? Palmolive shaving cream comes both ways. And whichever way you prefer to shave, you'll find that using either Palmolive brushless or Palmolive lather shaving cream can bring you more comfortable, actually smoother shaves. Here's the proof. 2,548 men tried the new Palmolive way to shave described on the tube. And no matter how they had shaved before, 3 out of every 4 got more comfortable, actually smoother shaves. Get Palmolive brushless or Palmolive lather shaving cream today.
For mystery liberally sprinkled with laughs, listen to Mr. and Mrs. North, the exciting, fun-packed adventures of an amateur detective and his beautiful wife. Tune in Tuesday evening over most of these same stations. And be with us again next week at this same time for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks.
One good reason to be proud we're Americans is that we're always free to tell our government how we feel about its actions. But let's not forget that freedom is everybody's job. All of us must work to keep our individual rights and freedoms by voting in an informed way so that the best men and women are placed in office. We must serve willingly on juries and public committees and take an interest in the development of our community, state, and country. For by being better citizens, we can show the world that America is a strong, successful democracy. Palmolive Soap, your beauty hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden.
While he's not the over-demonstrative type, most of the people who know biology teacher Philip Boynton find him friendly enough. Well, to our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, he's also friendly, but not enough.
It isn't that Mr. Boynton doesn't have his moments. It's just that I'm never around when he's having them. Last Thursday morning, as usual, my landlady, Mrs. Davis, and I were discussing this phenomenon at the breakfast table.
I can't understand it, Connie. You and Mr. Boynton have been going together for quite a while now, haven't you?
Yes, indeed, Mrs. Davis. Let's see, we started dating the week he got his pet frog, McDougal. That was over 2 years ago.
You mean you two have been going steady for the past 2 years?
That's right, Mrs. Davis. I've been going steady with Mr. Boynton, and he's been going steady with McDougal.
Those scientists are all alike. So bashful. There must be something you can do to stir him up, Connie.
Oh, I've tried everything, Mrs. Davis. I've even backed him into the Mixmaster.
Did you? Did you really, Connie?
No, but it's not a bad idea.
Mr. Boynton is a lot like Mr. Mitchell, a scientist who used to take out my sister Angela. She's terribly absent-minded, you know.
Yes, I know.
Even more so than my brother Victor. Although heaven knows he's forgetful enough, too.
Yes, you mentioned it to me, Mrs. Davis, but what about Mr. Mitchell?
Mitchell?
The scientist.
What scientist?
The scientist who took out your sister Angela.
Imagine. Angela out with a scientist. And she never even mentioned it to me.
Maybe she forgot.
Forgot? That girl would forget her head if it wasn't tucked under her arm.
This is probably a mistake, but there's something I'd like to clear up. You mentioned, when we were both quite a bit younger, a certain Mr. Mitchell. You said he was a scientist and that he was a lot like Mr. Boynton.
He certainly was, Connie. Now, if you've finished with breakfast, I'll clear away the dishes.
That's what I like, a story with no loose ends. Present company accepted. Oh, I'll get it, Mrs. Davis. That's probably Walter Denton. He's going to give me a lift to school this morning.
All right, Connie. See you after school, dear.
Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Why, it's Mr. Boynton. Come in.
Oh, I haven't time, Miss Brooks. I've got to stop at a laboratory supply house before I get to school. I just wanted to return this notebook. I found it in my lab yesterday.
Your lab?
Oh, yes. You left it there when you came to pick up the notebook you'd left the day before.
This is getting pretty obvious. Maybe I'd better start forgetting my gloves.
I thought you might need it for your first class, or I wouldn't have disturbed you so early.
Oh, you're not disturbing me, Mr. Boynton. At least not any more than usual. Are you sure you wouldn't like to come in for a minute?
Oh, no, thank you, Miss Brooks. I just heard that the supply house I deal with is a new batch of white mice. They just got in from Bolivia.
Well, shouldn't you give them a chance to unpack? Maybe I could go along with you. I'll just leave word for Walter Denton that I'm riding to school with you.
Oh, but I'm not driving, Miss Brooks. It's such a beautiful day, I decided to walk.
That's what I say. I'll leave word for Walter that I'm walking to school with you.
Well, you couldn't walk with me, Miss Brooks. I'm much too fast for you.
Now, there's a nifty bit of overstatement.
Besides, you wouldn't like the atmosphere in the supply house, all those mice and things. What's that? Oh, it's your cat. Hello, Minerva.
She probably wants the address of that supply house.
Come here, kitty. Ah, there's a nice girl. Oh, she sure loves it when I hold her and tickle the back of her neck.
Move over, Minerva. Here, I'll take her. Now go on inside, Minerva. I'll give you some milk in a minute. Run along now. Mr. Boynton's much too old for you.
You know, seeing Minerva like this reminds me of a joke one of my students told me.
A joke?
Yes. After class the other day, little Sid Silvers came over to me and said, Mr. Boynton, I know a lady who kisses cats. And I said, she kisses cats? What's her name? And he said, Mrs. Katz. What's the matter, Miss Brooks? Didn't you get it?
Oh, I got it, Mr. Boynton. It's just that I've had all I want of it.
Well, I'll be running along now. See you at school, Miss Brooks. You invited me to lunch today, remember?
That's right. It's my turn. Last time we went Dutch.
Who's there?
It's me, Mrs. Davis. I haven't gone yet.
Oh, then that wasn't Walter Denton at the door?
No, it was Mr. Boynton. He just stopped by to give me this notebook and to tell me about a lady who kisses cats.
Well, if there are any other ladies kissing cats, I think Mrs. Cat should know about it.
Please, Mrs. Davis, it's just a joke.
It's no joke to Mrs. Katz, after all the years they've been married.
Oh, that must be Walter now. Coming! Well, good morning, Walter.
It's more than a good morning, Miss Brooks. It's a heavenly morning, an exquisite morning, a delicious morning.
Don't wrap it up. I'll eat it here.
I feel as if I've been dancing on a sunbeam, tiptoeing on a rainbow, and wading through a cloud.
Well, wipe your feet and come in a minute.
Oh, hello, Walter.
Well, if it isn't Mrs. Davis, lovely Mrs. Davis, scintillating Mrs. Davis, radiant Mrs. Davis.
What's the matter with him?
I don't know. He just got here. What are you so happy about this morning, Walter?
It's l'amour, Miss Brooks. Wonderful, beautiful l'amour.
Did you get a letter from her? What is all this?
It's love, Miss Brooks. I can't sleep. I can't eat.
Oh, that's too bad, Walter. I was just going to ask you if you'd like a little breakfast.
Oh, what have you got?
Well, I could make you some nice waffles.
I'm afraid there's no time for that, Mrs. Davis. We've got to get to school.
Oh, it's of no consequence. Food is secondary at a time like this. I'll just have a few eggs and some milk. You see, my breakfast was almost an hour ago.
Poor kid, you must be starved. Hey, that reminds me, I've got to give Minerva some milk, too. Let's all go into the dinette.
Yeah.
Come along, Minerva.
Is there anything I can do to help you in the kitchen, Mrs. Davis?
No, you just sit right down here and talk to Miss Brooks, and I'll have your eggs ready in a jiffy.
Ah, you're a peach, Mrs. Davis.
Well, thank you, Walter.
She is, Miss Brooks. She's a peach. A wonderful...
I know, a wonderful, beautiful, fuzzy old peach. Now, I wish you'd tell me whence comes this gaiety of spirit.
From whence? Oh, from Harriet Conklin, that's whence.
Well, she's a pretty nice little wench.
Ah, she's more than nice, Miss Brooks. She's sensational. And boy, what a fight we had yesterday.
A fight?
Yeah, we almost came to blows. It'll be a long time before we have another fight like that one, boy.
Well, what are you so happy about? I thought you were fond of Harriet.
I'm crazy about her.
I see. You're crazy about her, so you almost came to blows.
Oh, don't you get it? The more bitter the battle, the sweeter it is making up.
You mean you actually pick fights just so you can patch it up later?
Harriet started this one. It was sheer inspiration. Boy, you should have heard the name she called me.
Names? Why, I don't believe Harriet Conklin would call anyone names, Walter.
Oh, it wasn't really Harriet. She was quoting her father. He hates me, you know.
Yes, I know.
Besides, a good fight once in a while tends to make couples less sure of each other. A person can't take another person for granted if he or she is belting his or her brains out.
This boy is another Kirk Douglas. Will you excuse me for a minute, Walter? I'd like to get Minerva her milk.
Oh, certainly, Miss Brooks.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes, Connie, I'm just finishing the egg.
Walter's just given me a wonderful idea, Mrs. Davis. The trouble with Mr. Boynton and myself is that we take each other for granted.
You take each other for granted?
With one exception. I don't take him for granted. What I mean is, if I could get him into a good fight, he wouldn't be so sure of me. And then, too, think of what fun it would be making up.
I think you've got something there, Connie. When are you going to pick this fight with Mr. Boynton?
At lunchtime today, we have a date to meet in the cafeteria.
Good for you, Connie. It just goes to show you there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Not you, Minerva, not you.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, will continue in just a moment. But first, here is Vern Smith.
For bare skin beauty, it's bath-size Palmolive with its famous beauty lather. Yes, bath-size Palmolive for loveliness all over.
There's something thrillingly new in this wonderful beauty lather of bath-size Palmolive soap. New fragrance, new charm, new allure. See if Palmolive in your daily tub or shower doesn't leave your shoulders, arms, and back. Yes, all of you softer and smoother, completely lovelier all over. You'll thrill to the tender whisper of perfume it leaves on your skin. A whisper that says, come hither to romance.
And this new bath-size Palmolive is so big, so thrifty, economical to use because it lasts so long and gives so much soft, lovely lather so fast.
That soft, lovely lather with its alluring new fragrance is Palmolive soaps alone. Palmolive's famous beauty lather. Yes, a new fragrance, new charm, new allure that can make every woman a vision of delight. in the new revealing fashions that show so much more of you.
So remember, for bare skin beauty, it's bath-size Palmolive with its famous beauty lather. Yes, bath-size Palmolive for loveliness all over.
Get bath-size Palmolive soap tomorrow. Menfolk love it, too.
As soon as the bell rang for lunch, I hastened toward the cafeteria to start the battle of the century with my unwitting adversary, Mr. Boynton. I must have been exceeding the speed limit for Madison's halls, for just as I came abreast of the principal's office, Mr. Conklin flagged me.
Well, if it isn't Mel Patton. Would you like us to put up some hurdles for you, my dear?
I'm sorry, Mr. Conklin. I was just hurrying to get to lunch.
Obviously. But I'll have to ask you to make a small detour. Would you mind loping into my office for a moment?
Of course, Mr. Conklin.
Yeah. Now, sit down, Miss Brooks. I've called you in to find out what you've done about Walter Denton and my daughter Harriet.
What I've done, Mr. Conklin?
Yes. A few weeks ago, I requested that you move him to the furthest possible spot from Harriet's desk.
Oh, I have, Mr. Conklin. They couldn't be any further apart unless one of them transferred to another school.
Well, I don't know what Harriet sees in that lame-brained dunce.
Oh, he isn't so bad, Mr. Conklin. It's just puppy love with Walter.
If I could be sure of that, I'd buy him a lifetime supply of Strongheart and build him a kennel with my own hands. You should have heard them last night, Miss Brooks. They were on our front porch till almost 11 o'clock. Seems they had an argument in the afternoon, and they spent over 3 hours cooing and gurgling at each other like a brace of punch-drunk doves.
Oh, they were just making up after a little spat.
Well, we've got to do something to make that spat a permanent one.
That's a pretty tough assignment, Mr. Conklin. Don't you realize that nothing is as sweet as the reconciliation after a lover's quarrel? Why, many couples pick fights just for the fun of making up.
Yes. Harriet's mother once started a quarrel with me just to stir up some emotional activity. Now that I think of it, when we did make up, it was rather wonderful. Perhaps you'd better run along now, Miss Brooks. I have a phone call to make.
Oh, Miss Brooks, here I am.
Oh, hello, Mr. Boynton.
I've been holding this table for us. It's right near the food counter.
Well, if you're going to be sarcastic about my being a few seconds late, Mr. Boynton, perhaps I'd better eat by myself.
But I wasn't being sarcastic, Miss Brooks. I just said...
There you go. You just said. If you're not interested in anything I might have to say.
Yes, I am, Miss Brooks. What have you got to say?
What made you decide to sit so close to the steam table?
Well, you always like to be near the food, Miss Brooks.
Oh, that's right. Call me a glutton. Next thing you'll be saying is that I stuffed myself so much I'm getting fat as a horse.
Well, I wouldn't say anything like that, Miss Brooks. You're just getting a little plump. What's the matter with you today, anyway?
Oh, that's right. Blame it all on me. I come in prepared to have a perfectly friendly lunch, and you immediately start picking on me.
I don't know how you can say a thing like that, Miss Brooks.
You mean you don't know how a person in her right mind can say a thing like that. That's what you were thinking. Don't deny it.
Oh, I get it. This is a rib. Say, you sure had me going for a minute there.
I may have to bite him. This is no rib, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, excuse me, folks, but I have a rather important message for Miss Brooks.
What is it, Walter?
Well, Mr. Conklin wants to see you in his office right away.
Oh, it's a shame you have to go now, Miss Brooks. You haven't had anything to eat, and the lunch period's half over. Here, you better have a few of these jelly beans.
Jelly beans?
Oh, yes, I carry them with me all the time. They're almost pure sugar, you know, and the dextrose contained in them is one of the best sources of quick energy known to science. Here, take a couple. Sweets to the sweet, they say.
That is the last insult I'll take from you, Mr. Boynton. Here, you can have my chair, Walter.
But, Miss Brooks...
I don't know what this is all about, but I'm afraid I've got to interrupt, Mr. Boynton. As manager of the track team, I've called a special practice for after school. I thought you ought to know.
Oh, you did? Well, for your information, Denton, as coach of the track team, I'm the only one entitled to call a practice.
Oh, gee, you don't have to get so excited about it.
Don't tell me how excited to get either. I'm not strict enough with you kids. That's the trouble.
Oh, sure you are, Mr. Boynton.
I am not.
Oh, great. With him, me fight. You sent for me, Mr. Conklin?
Yes, Miss Brooks, I did. I wanted to report to you the result of my adopting your suggestion.
My suggestion?
Yes, acting upon your conversational tip of a few moments ago, I called my wife, Martha, and started an argument with her.
Really, Mr. Conklin? Do you think it worked?
I think so, yes.
Good.
Miss Brooks,
Yes?
Martha has left me.
Left you? How do you know?
I was afraid I'd gone at it a little strongly in my first call, so after a few minutes I rang my home again.
And?
The housekeeper told me that Martha had left the house with a valise.
A valise?
She did the same thing the last time we quarreled. Took off like a wounded buffalo for her mother's house in Toledo. Now, if you'll stay in my office, Miss Brooks, I'll try to head her off at the railroad station.
Oh, but my classes, Mr.
Put
Conklin.
Harriet in charge, Miss Brooks. You'll have to wait until I return.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry it worked out like this, Mr. Conklin, but I must say you're showing remarkable self-control.
There's no time for recriminations now, Miss Brooks. However, upon my return, I'll flay you!
Principal's office, Miss Brooks speaking.
Oh, hello, Miss Brooks. This is Mrs. Conklin.
Mrs. Conklin, where are you?
Well, I'm in the luggage shop, Miss Brooks. I thought Osgood and I might open our cottage at Crystal Lake a little early this year, so I'm having one of my valises repaired. Would you be good enough to call Mr. Conklin to the phone?
I'm afraid my voice isn't loud enough, Mrs. Conklin. He's at the railroad station.
The railroad station? What's he doing there?
Well, he thought you were peeved at him for having been nasty to you on the phone. So when your housekeeper told him you'd left with a valise, he presumed something drastic had happened, like the time you were wounded in Buffalo.
What?
Well, he thinks you're on your way to your mother's house in Toledo.
So that's what he thinks. Well, it serves him right. You have no idea how he went out of his way to pick an argument with me, Miss Brooks.
Oh, yes, I have, Mrs. Conklin.
Well, instead of rushing over to the station and explaining the misunderstanding, I've a good mind to let him cool his heels for a while.
Oh, but Mrs. Conklin, I feel partly responsible for what's happened. I'm sorry if I started...
Well, I'm not a bit sorry. A little emotional activity is good for any family. After all, even bees have to stop making honey sometime.
I know, but I've started the activity in the wrong hive.
Well, I'm going back home now, Miss Brooks. Why don't you drop over after school? We'll have a little bull session.
Oh, he won't be back by then. I mean, I'd love to drop over, Mrs. Conklin. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Miss Brooks, I'm surprised at you.
Mr. Boynton, I didn't hear the door open.
The door was open. I happened to be passing by and, well, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with Mrs. Conklin.
You heard it?
Every word.
Oh, well, I'll have a jelly bean now, Mr. Boynton.
Frankly, I never dreamed you'd be a party to such a nefarious plot, Miss Brooks. For the first time in my life, I'm really angry at you.
You are?
Yes, I certainly am.
Well. Okay, so you're mad at me. You want to make something out of it, frog boy?
Frog boy?
Why don't you leap down to the pond and dunk your head under a lily pad?
So you've been spying on me after school.
Your father's microscope.
Miss Brooks, you've succeeded in stirring up our first quarrel. Why, when I think of our principal wandering around the railroad station, searching vainly for a wife who isn't there, I'm appalled. Why, poor Mr. Conklin must be beside himself.
Oh, not that, Mr. Boynton. Even Mr. Conklin couldn't stand another Mr. Conklin.
I'm worried, Miss Brooks. It's almost 9 p.m. and still no word from Osgood. Maybe something's happened to him. Maybe I'll never see him again.
Oh, please, Mrs. Conklin, take it easy.
Well, how can I take it easy? How would you feel if you thought you were never going to see Osgood again?
I rarely indulge in wishful thinking. Now, when Mr. Conklin gets tired of looking for you, he'll come home. Meanwhile, you must try to be cheerful.
If only Daddy would phone. If only we had some word, some definite...
Oh, the doorbell. Maybe it's Osgood. I'll get it.
Oh, no, Mother. If it is Daddy, you wouldn't want him to see you with your eyes all red from crying. I'll get it.
No, dear. Your eyes are red, too.
But, Mother, your eyes are redder than mine.
No, dear. Your eyes are much redder than mine.
You two red eyes will excuse me. I'll open the door. Well.
Oh, it's you, Miss Brooks.
Come in, Mr. Boynton. Mrs. Conklin and Harriet are pretty worried.
please, Mr. Boynton, don't keep us in suspense. Is there any news?
Quickly, Mr. Boynton, tell us.
Oh, I'm afraid not. I checked the railroad station and the bus terminal, but I saw no sign of Mr. Conklin.
Poor Daddy.
Hold it, Harriet. Wait for your mother.
Mr. Boynton, did you also check the airport?
Yes, I did. He wasn't there either.
Oh, poor Osgood.
Now both together. Well, don't just stand there, Mr. Boynton. Pull up a life raft and sit down. Oh, don't be discouraged, Mrs. Conklin. Maybe Walter Denton will come back with some more tangible news.
Oh, I hope he comes soon. This waiting is maddening. Oh, the doorbell. Maybe that's Osgood. I'll get it.
Oh, no, Mother, I'll get it. If it is, Daddy, you wouldn't want him to see you.
I've got it.
Hiya, Miss Brooks.
Come in, Walter. It's Walter Denton.
Hello, Walter.
Hello, Mrs. Conklin. Hello, Harriet. Hello, Mr. Boynton.
You can call the roll later, Walter. Now, what's the news?
Yes, what did you find out, Walter?
Well, I checked the receiving hospital, the emergency hospitals, and also the morgue.
And?
No luck.
Phone. Maybe that's Osgood. I'll get it.
Oh, no, Mother, I'll get it. If it is, Daddy, you wouldn't want him.
Hello, Mr. Conklin's residence. Miss Brooks speaking.
How do you do, Miss Brooks?
Mr. Conklin.
Mr. Conklin.
It's Daddy. Osgood.
Must be a five-party line.
Mr. Conklin, where are you?
Where do you think I am? I'm in Toledo.
Where?
At the home of Martha's mother, but Martha's not here.
Of course she isn't. She's right here.
What? Well, put her on at once.
Yes, sir. Just a minute. He wants to talk to you, Mrs. Conklin. He's at your mother's house in Toledo.
In Toledo?
Ohio.
Toledo, Ohio?
Zone 38. Here's the phone.
But, Miss Brooks, I don't dare tell him that I let him go on that wild goose chase just to teach him a lesson. You know his blood pressure.
I ought to. I helped give it to him. Here's the phone, Mrs. Conklin. Talk to him.
Oh, thank you. Hello, Osgood.
Martha, you're home. I don't quite understand.
Well, dear, when you picked a quarrel with me today, I really planned to go home to Mother. But I realized I just couldn't bear the thought of leaving you.
You really mean that, Martha? Oh, what a lucky man I am. I'll take the first plane back, my dear. It'll be such fun making up. And Martha?
Yes, Osgood.
You can start puckering up now, sugar.
Why, Osgood.
Goodbye, sweetie.
Goodbye, sugar cookie.
Isn't that sweet? Come on out to the porch, Harriet. We still got some making up of our own to do.
All right, Walter. Now I'm going up to my room and have a good, happy cry.
You've earned it, Mrs. Conklin. The day you were married.
Well, Miss Brooks, we seem to have this living room all to ourselves.
Shall we go to our corners and come out reconciling?
Miss Brooks, I realize you really did nothing to gain my anger today, and, well, in a situation like this, actions speak louder than words.
What are you driving at, Mr. Boynton?
Miss Brooks, pucker up.
Yes, Mr. Boynton.
And close your eyes.
Not me. I want to watch.
No. Please, close your eyes.
All right, Mr. Boynton.
There. Well, how did you like it, Miss Brooks?
Wonderful, Mr. Boynton. The purple ones are my favorite jelly beans. Eve
Arden, as our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment. But first...
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl.
Tonight, show him how much lovelier your hair can look after a Luster Cream shampoo. Only Luster Cream brings you Kay Duma's magic formula blend of secret ingredients plus gentle lanolin. Gives loveliness lather even in hardest water. Glamorizes your hair as you wash it. Luster Cream, not a soap, not a liquid, but a dainty cream shampoo. Leaves hair fragrantly clean, free of loose dandruff, glistening with sheen, soft, manageable, gives new beauty to all hairdos or permanents. 4-ounce jar, $1. Smaller sizes, either tubes or jars. Tonight, try Luster Cream Shampoo and be a
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl. You owe your crowning glory to a luster cream shampoo.
And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, after Mr. Boynton had fed me all the jelly beans I could swallow, he walked me home through the park.
Miss Brooks, there's something I've wanted to say to you all evening.
There he is?
Well, I didn't want to embarrass you in front of the others, but, well...
Yes, Mr. Boynton?
The seams of your stockings are crooked.
Thanks a million, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, look, over by that tree, Miss Brooks. It's a Pendodactylus, same type of frog as McDougal.
Excuse me, Mr. Boynton. Now, you listen to me, you green-skinned, pop-eyed monster. You have a lot of nerve croaking at people at this time of night. This park isn't big enough for both of us, see?
Miss Brooks, what are you doing?
I'm picking a fight with this frog. It's got to be more fun making up with him.
Next week, tune into another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Palmolive Soap, Your Beauty Hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written and directed by Al Lewis, with music by Wilbur Hatch.
Men, here is actual, factual proof of more comfortable, actually smoother shaves by using Palmolive Lather Shaving Cream. 1,251 men tried the Palmolive Lather way to shave, described on the tube. And no matter how they shaved before, 3 out of 4 got more comfortable, actually smoother shave.
Palmolive Soap, Your Beauty Hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Not very many of us like to get up early in the morning, but our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, doesn't seem to mind at all.
No, in fact, I get quite a kick out of waking up in the morning, because it offers proof positive that I managed to live through the day before. However, last Wednesday, my landlady, Mrs. Davis, woke me at what seemed like an excessively early hour.
Connie, get up, Connie.
Why?
Because it's 6 a.m., and I'm leaving the house early, and there are several things I want you to do for me.
Like what, for instance?
Like feeding our cat Minerva at 5 minutes after 7.
But why don't you feed her now?
Why, Connie, you ought to know better than that. Minerva never gets up until 7.
I'm sorry, I lost my head. That cat certainly doesn't lead a dog's life. But why are you leaving the house so early, Mrs. Davis?
I've got to visit my sister Angela. I received a message from her during the night.
Oh? I hope nothing's wrong.
No, she's quite well, she said. She just wants to see me.
She must have called pretty late. I didn't hear the phone ring at all.
Oh, she didn't phone, Connie.
Was it a wire?
No.
Special delivery letter?
No.
Walkie-talkie? Pigeon? Before I use up my 20 questions, how did you hear from your sister?
Well, you know how absent-minded Angela is.
Yes.
And you probably haven't noticed it, but lately I've been growing quite absent-minded, too.
I've noticed it.
Last night, I finally arrived at a point where Angela and I were tuned to the same wavelength. She reached me by mental telepathy.
How did she come over, AM or FM?
You can joke if you like, but I know just as surely as I'm standing here that Angela wants to see me immediately. So I'll have to leave right after breakfast.
All right, Mrs. Davis. It'll do you good to get out of the house for a change anyway. Now, what did you want me to do for you?
Do for me?
Yes. You said when you woke me that there were several things you wanted me to do?
I did.
Yes. In connection with your leaving the house this morning?
But I didn't leave the house this morning.
I know, but you're going to.
I am.
I must be tuned in on the wrong wavelength. I'll see you at breakfast, Mrs. Davis.
Well, how did you like your breakfast, Connie?
Fine, Mrs. Davis. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll get ready to go to school. Mr. Boynton's picking me up.
Oh, good. Well, I'll finish these dishes before I go, Connie.
Oh, I'll get it. Coming. Well, if it isn't our school custodian, Mr. Jensen.
If it isn't your school custodian, Mr. Jensen, then what? When you opened the door, you said, well, if it isn't our school custodian, Mr. Jensen.
Mm-hmm.
Then I said, if it isn't your school custodian, Mr. Jensen, then what? Catching people saying things that don't have any real meaning is a hobby of mine.
Oh, that's very cute, Mr. Jensen. Won't you come in?
Oh, thank you, Miss Brooks.
Oh, that's better.
What's better?
Look, Mr. Jensen.
Look at what?
I don't mean look, I mean listen. I'm in kind of a hurry.
What kind?
The usual kind. To leave the house and get to school. Therefore, your hobby doesn't have the charm for me it might have at some other time.
I guess you've got me there.
Where? Oh, great. You've got me doing it. Never mind, Mr. Jensen. What can I do for you?
Well, you can open up the school this morning, if you will, Miss Brooks. I talked to Mr. Conklin on the phone, and he said to give you the key.
Oh.
Here it is. It's this fat little devil with the blue ribbon on it.
Oh, I thought that was your tie. Oh, you mean the key to the school. But why don't you open up as usual?
Oh, because I have another stop to make before I go to school that might cause me to be tardy.
Another stop?
Yes, the maternity hospital. My wife is going to have a baby.
Why, Mr. Jensen?
Well, I don't know, just because, I guess. It's our 6th child, Miss Brooks.
Honestly, Mr. Jensen?
Well, I didn't steal them, if that's what you mean. Well, I'd better be getting along now. My wife will be expecting me. She's sort of used to having me around.
I imagine she is, Mr. Jensen. Please accept my heartiest best wishes for both of you.
Oh, thank you, Miss Brooks. May I remind you to be prompt in opening the school? I wouldn't want Mr. Conklin and the students to be kept waiting.
No, they won't be, Mr. Jensen. And be sure and let me know whether your wife has a boy or a girl.
I will, Miss Brooks.
Good day, Mr. Jensen.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
I'll just put this key on the hall table here so I don't forget it.
Oh, Connie, will you come into the kitchen a moment, please?
Yes, Mrs. Davis.
I'm all finished with the dishes, and I'd like to leave immediately. Now, Connie, when you wake Minerva, be sure to wake her gently. She's been quite sensitive about noise ever since she fell into my new Speed Queen washing machine.
I don't know why. It did a very good job on her. But I'll be careful not to upset her, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, here's Minerva now. Good morning, dear. How did you sleep? I'm glad. Well, I'll be running along now. You'll give Minerva her milk, won't you, Connie?
Oh, certainly, Mrs. Davis. Remember me to your sister Angela, if you remember.
I will, dear. Put a little cream in with the milk. She likes it that way.
All right, Mrs. Davis. That is, if we have any cream. Here we are. No cream left. She'll have to drink it black. I'll just pour the milk into this dish. There you are, Minerva. There isn't any cream left, Minerva. We'll have cream for you tomorrow. Drink that milk or I'll turn on the washing machine. Yeah. I thought that would do it.
I'll get it. I'm on my way out anyway. Oh, come in, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Davis. You leaving the house so early?
Yes. Let's see if I've got everything. My purse, my hat, my shoes, and... Oh, yes, now I'm all set. You'll find Miss Brooks in the kitchen, Mr. Boynton. I'm going over to see my sister Angela.
Oh, say hello for me.
Hello.
I mean to your sister, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Boynton. Goodbye.
Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Hello, Mr. Boynton. Would you like a cup of coffee?
Oh, yes, thanks. Will you join me?
I'd love to.
Yeah, I'll pour. I ran into Mr. Jensen down the block. Cream?
Yes, please.
He told me his wife was going to have a baby.
I think large families are wonderful. When I meet the right man, if I haven't already met him, I'll want to get married and have several children of my own.
Sugar?
Yes, Mr. Boynton. I mean, yes.
Say, look at the clock. We'd better hurry with this coffee.
Oh, you're so right, Mr. Boynton. And before we go, I'd better unlock the back door. Mrs. Davis invariably forgets her key.
Oh, she didn't forget it this time. When she was leaving, I noticed she took a little fat one off the hall table.
She took the little fat... Mr. Boynton, that was the key to the school. Mr. Jensen asked me to open up this morning.
Oh, no, Miss Brooks.
Oh, yes, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, gosh. Pretty soon, Mr. Conklin and all the students will be arriving at school, and nobody will be able to get in. Mr. Conklin will be furious at you.
Don't remind me. I can see the sparks flashing from his tongue already. Gee, I'm in quite a spot, aren't I? Aren't I? That shows how upset I am, Mr. Boynton. An English teacher should never be guilty of saying aren't I.
But, Miss Brooks, what about school? Suppose we hurry over and
Aren't
explain
is
things.
merely the contraction of are not. Therefore, one who says aren't I is guilty of saying are not I.
Miss Brooks, what about...
The correct form is am I not. Aren't I being nothing more than an absurd and altogether ungrammatical affectation.
Miss Brooks, what about school?
I ain't going.
Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, will continue in just a moment. But first, here is Vern Smith. Here's wonderful news, ladies. Wonderful, wonderful news. Now there's something thrillingly new in Palmolive Soap's famous beauty lather. Yes, something thrillingly new. Palmolive's famous beauty lather now brings you new fragrance, new charm, new allure.
Millions of women will prefer Beauty Lather Palmolive over all other leading toilet soaps the minute they try it. For Palmolive Soap's famous Beauty Lather now has a new, clean, flower-fresh fragrance for new allure, new charm.
So, ladies, forget all other beauty care and use Palmolive Soap the way doctors advise for a lovelier complexion. Just stop improper cleansing and instead wash your face with Palmolive Soap 3 times a day, massaging Palmolive's wonderful beauty lather onto your skin for 60 seconds each time to get its full beautifying effect. Then rinse. That's all. All types of skin, young, older, oily, respond to it quickly. Don't wait another day to try Palmolive's Beauty Lather. You'll be thrilled by its new fragrance, new charm, new allure. Thrilled again by the fresher, brighter complexion doctors prove may soon be yours.
For new loveliness all over, use big bath-size Palmolive in tub or shower.
Well, I finally decided to face the music, even though I knew that the music would consist of some angry pear-shaped tones emanating from Mr. Conklin's pear-shaped head. By the time Mr. Boynton dropped me off, there were so many students milling around dear old Madison High that it looked like a training school for young pickets. I found Mr. Conklin pacing up and down outside his office windows.
Ah, there you are, Miss Brooks.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin.
It's about time. Now then, if you'll give me the key.
The key?
Yes, the key. Let me have it.
I'll let you have it as quickly as possible. There is no key.
No key? But Mr. Jensen was supposed to
He did. But then I put it on a table in the hall, and Mrs. Davis took it with her to her sister Angela's. It wasn't really my fault, Mr. Conklin.
I don't care whose fault it was. We've got to get into this school, and quickly.
You see, Miss Brooks, the Board of Education is presenting Madison High with a plaque today.
A plaque? For what, Mr. Conklin?
It's an award for the best attendance record of any high school in the county.
Really? Why, that's wonderful. Congratulations, Mr. Conklin.
Thank you, Miss Brooks, but I'd rather receive your felicitations inside my office instead of out here.
That's your phone, isn't it, Mr. Conklin?
Yes, it is. But thanks to your far-sighted suggestion after those 2 boxes of chalk disappeared, ours is the only school with a double lock on the front door and bars on all the windows. I can't get in to answer it.
Well, maybe it isn't important, Mr. Conklin.
I think I know who's calling, Miss Brooks. It's the Board of Education. They want to know when I'm going to hold an assembly.
An assembly?
Yes, Miss Brooks. They want to give us a plaque for perfect attendance, and nobody's in school to answer the phone.
Oh, please, Mr. Conklin, try to be calm. We'll think of something. Maybe I could call Mrs. Davis when she gets to her sister's. No, Angela has no phone. I know. I'll go out to her house.
You'll do no such thing, Miss Brooks. You'll need every teacher we've got to set up classes on the athletic field.
Hello, Daddy. Miss Brooks. Don't you think it's time we were getting into school?
Now, that's an excellent suggestion, Harriet.
Miss Brooks hasn't got the key.
Wait a minute. You drive, don't you, Harriet?
Well, certainly, Miss Brooks. Can I go somewhere for you?
You'll stay right here, Harriet. There must be someone else you can send, Miss Brooks.
How about my dreamboat, Walter Denton?
Dreamboat? He's an idiot.
But, Daddy, Walter's a wonderful driver. He'll pick up the key wherever it is and have it back here in nothing flat.
Nothing but his head, that is. Well, maybe that's a good idea. Miss Brooks, get Denton to drive out to wherever Mrs. Davis is. At least his brain is expendable.
All right, Mr. Conklin. I'll look for Walter and ask him to go after the key.
You won't have to look for him, Miss Brooks. Walter's coming over right now.
Well, if it isn't my light of love. Greetings, fair Harriet. Bonjour, Miss Brooks. And to you, esteemed principal, felicitations. What's the matter, Mr. Conklin? Catch a rancid wheat cake at breakfast?
Mr. Conklin's not in a very good mood this morning, Walter. You see, today's the day the Board of Education is supposed to award Madison a plaque for its fine attendance record.
Well, what's bad about that? Let's get into the jolly institution and snag that little beauty.
I'd love to, Walter. Maybe we could melt you down and pour you through the bar. Now, I'm going to inform the other teachers of our dilemma, Miss Brooks. Please get Expendable here on his way. Come with me, Harriet.
Yes, Daddy. Bye, Walter.
Adieu, lovely one, and lovely one's father.
You
know, Miss Brooks, there are times when I sense an animosity in that man. Now, what do you suppose could cause such a reaction?
Hatred, for one thing. Now, please listen carefully, Walter. You know Mrs. Davis's sister Angela, don't you?
Oh, sure, Miss Brooks. I gave Mrs. Davis a ride out there last week.
Good. Do you remember where she lives?
Well, it's way on the other side of town. I didn't notice the address, but I think I could find it. There was a mailbox on the corner.
A mailbox? Isn't there anything else that would help you identify it?
Well, nothing outstanding.
What color was the house?
I don't remember the background color, but the stripes were purple. I guess I could find it all right, Miss Brooks. But I wish you'd tell me what this is all about.
Well, it's about the key to the school, Walter. Mrs. Davis walked off with it this morning, and it's up to you to go and get it back. Now, just ask her for the little fat key on a blue ribbon.
Your wish is my command, Miss Brooks. My eager jalopy is champing at the curb.
What kind of a car is that anyway, Walter?
Oh, it has no name, Miss Brooks. Just a slogan.
A slogan?
Yeah. You know how they call the new Hudson the car you step down into?
Yes.
Well, this is the box you back away from.
Well, Miss Brooks, it's over an hour since Denton left, and he's still not back with that key.
I'm sure it won't be much longer, Mr. Conklin.
There goes that phone again. I wish Mr. Stone would stop calling my office.
I know one way to stop him, Mr. Conklin. We can go to the malt shop next door and call him. That way you can stall him off till Walter gets back with the key.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Better than standing around listening to that phone. Come on, Miss Brooks.
Well, here we are, Mr. Conklin. Martin's Malt Shop, Madison's unofficial annex.
After you, Miss Brooks.
Well, if it isn't Miss Brooks.
Hi, Marty.
Sneak away from the ogre for a little fizz water?
No, the ogre is along today.
Sorry, Mr. Conklin. Just a little nickname I picked up from the kids.
Why, I'm surprised at you, Marty. Nobody at Madison calls Mr. Conklin by anything but his right name.
Well, I'm happy to know that, Miss Brooks.
Oh, here's the phone booth right over here, pear-shaped. Mr. Conklin. I'll dial the Board of Education for you. School days, dear old golden rule.
Board of Education, Mr. Stone speaking.
Mr. Conklin calling you, Mr. Stone. One moment, please. Here you are, Mr. Conklin.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Stone?
Is that you, Conklin?
Yes, it is, Mr. Stone.
I might as well have a Coke while I'm waiting.
Well, it's about time. I was beginning to think that Madison High School had slid into the sea.
Well, I had to step out of my office for a minute, Mr. Stone, but I'm back in it now. Yes, sir.
What's that?
What's what?
Osgood, are you hissing me?
Oh, no, sir, no. We must have a bad connection.
It's a terrible connection. You say you're in your office?
Yes, sir.
I'll call you right back.
Yeah, but, Mr. Stone...
And for heaven's sakes, don't disappear again. Goodbye.
Wait, Mr. Stone. Wait, Mr... This is the last straw.
What did he say, Mr. Conklin?
He said he's going to call me right back. Now I'm in deeper than ever.
Oh, we'll figure some way out of this. After all, Mr. Stone is only a human being.
A human being who happens to be the head of our local Board of Education. Oh, this is awful.
Excuse me, Daddy, but the telephone in your office is ringing.
The telephone in your office is ringing. What do you suggest, Harriet?
Well, I don't know, Daddy. But don't worry. I'm sure Walter won't fail us.
He'd better not. Now, Miss Brooks, I'm going over to inspect the classes that have been set up on the athletic field. I want you to call the board and talk to Mr. Stone.
Me? But what should I tell him?
Improvise.
Oh, but Mr. Conklin...
Stall him off, Miss Brooks. I'm counting on you.
Oh, great. Well, I might as well get it over with.
What are you going to tell Mr. Stone, Miss Brooks?
I don't know yet, Harriet. I'll wait till he answers.
Hello, Mr. Stone speaking.
Hello, Mr. Stone. This is Miss Brooks at Madison High.
Yes?
I'm calling from Mr. Conklin's office, Mr. Stone. He asked me to call you.
Give me a double strawberry temptation, Marty.
Oh, he did. What about, Miss Brooks?
About his not being able to talk to you for a while.
What in the world is that sound?
Sound? Oh, that's the radiator, Mr. Stone. It's defective.
Radiator? In tune?
Well, they're just testing it. As a matter of fact, that's why Mr. Conklin can't talk to you. One of our students was just in his office, and this jet of hot water started out of the radiator, and Mr. Conklin jumped in front of the boy to save him and accidentally knocked out 6 of the boy's teeth.
That's too bad, Miss Brooks. That radiator should be fixed immediately.
Oh, it was, Mr. Stone. But Mr. Conklin doesn't want to leave the boy's side. He's on the couch across the room. He's giving him a transfusion.
A transfusion? Of teeth?
Oh, didn't I tell you? He also cut his foot. He's in a bad way, Mr. Stone, but we're hoping for the best.
Where is the boy now? In a malted milk machine?
Thing off. There must be somebody else on this line, Mr. Stone. I'd better call you back.
No, Miss Brooks, don't bother. I don't quite know what's going on at Madison today, but I'm going to find out. You tell Mr. Conklin that I'll call him in exactly 10 minutes. If he isn't at the phone prepared to carry on a rational conversation at that time, well, he'd better be.
But, Mr. Stone...
Goodbye, Miss Brooks.
Goodbye. And goodbye, Mr. Conklin.
Well?
Well, nothing. It's worse than ever. Mr. Stone's going to call again in 10 minutes. Wait a minute, Harriet. I think I've got an idea.
What is it, Miss Brooks?
First, I'll get Marty to hang an out-of-order sign on this phone booth, and then I'll call Mr. Conklin's office in 5 minutes and leave the receiver off the hook on this end.
Well, what'll that do?
Well, that will ensure Mr. Stone's receiving a busy signal when he calls in 10 minutes. And that's what he'll continue to receive until Walter returns with the key.
Miss Brooks, you're a positive genius.
Please, Harriet, don't exaggerate. I'm not a bit positive.
Please calm down, Daddy. I'm sure Walter will be back any minute.
Oh, that Denton. Instead of sending him for the key, I should have sent some other idiot. I should have gone myself. He's nothing but an unreliable laggard, a detestable, nauseating, blundering knucklehead.
Excuse me, Mr. Conklin. Here's the key.
Bless you, boy. Well, don't stand there, Denton. Open the door.
Yes, sir. There you are, sir.
Out of the way, out of the way. Now to get that phone. Must be Mr. Stone. Well, I'll just give him a piece of my mind if he thinks he can hound me all day. Hello? Osgood Conklin speaking. Hello? Hello? There's no dial tone. Some lame brain must have called this number and left the receiver off the hook. Hello? 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 Hello?
Mr. Conklin, sir, I found this telegram under your door.
Telegram? Let me see that. Let's see. Well, it's from Mr. Stone. It says, Dear Osgood, realizing the futility of trying to reach you by telephone, I hereby inform you that the Board of Education has authorized you to suspend classes for the remainder of the school day in recognition of Madison's splendid attendance record.
Gosh, Mr. Conklin, does that mean there's no more school today?
Evidently, Walter. Now, please go out to the athletic field and inform the teachers and students of my decision to give them the rest of the day off.
Yes, sir. Oh, before I go, I better bring you back the key. I left it in the door.
Just leave it there. I've got a little work to clean up. I can get it on my way home.
Let's make the most of our afternoon off, Miss Brooks. I'd like to do something really exciting today, if you're game.
Game?
Miss Brooks, I'd like to take you to the zoo.
I'm afraid that's a little too gamey for me, Mr. Boynton. I'd much rather go to a movie. Say, we must be the last two people on the grounds. I feel like... Oh, excuse me a minute.
What's wrong, Miss Brooks?
I just noticed the front door. Walter left the key in it. You know, the extra lock was my idea.
Yes, I know.
Mr. Conklin's been so worried about this key all day, I'm not going to take any chances.
What are you going to do, Miss Brooks?
I'm going to lock up the school and mail this key to Mr. Conklin.
Eve Arden as our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment, but first...
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl.
Tonight, show him how much lovelier your hair can look after a Luster Cream shampoo. Only Luster Cream brings you Kay Daumit's magic formula blend of secret ingredients plus gentle lanolin. Gives loveliness lather even in hardest water. Glamorizes your hair as you wash it. Luster Cream. Not a soap, not a liquid, but a dainty cream shampoo. Leaves hair fragrantly clean, free of loose dandruff, glistening with sheen. Soft, manageable, gives new beauty to all hairdos or permanents. 4-ounce jar, $1. Smaller sizes, either tubes or jars. Tonight, try Luster Cream shampoo and be a
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl. You owe your crowning glory to a luster cream shampoo.
And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, after I mailed the key, Mr. Boynton took me to the zoo. Then we had a nice Dutch dinner, saw a very exciting movie, and wound up at Marty's malt shop.
Give us a couple of malters, Marty.
Coming right up, folks.
That certainly was a terrifying picture, especially when Lucy starts to hear the voices.
Oh, I don't know. Lots of manic depressives wind up like that.
Beg pardon, Mr. Boynton?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I guess it's the effect of that movie.
Hello. Can you hear me? Won't somebody answer me?
Now, wait a minute. I'm not that far gone.
Hello out there.
It's coming from the phone booth. I better see what that is. Well, that's funny. The receiver's still off the hook. Hello?
Hello? Is that you, Miss Brooks?
Yes. Mr. Conklin?
It is indeed.
Have you been trying to reach me, Mr. Conklin?
I have indeed.
Oh, if it's about the school, Mr. Conklin, you don't have a thing to worry about. I locked it securely before I left the campus. Nobody can possibly get in.
That's not what I'm worried about, Miss Brooks. I'm worried about getting out.
You mean? Oh, no, you're not still.
Yes, I'm still. Now get over here with that key!
Yes, sir. Right away, sir. The key? Oh, Mr. Boynton, do you think you could lift me up?
Why, of course, Miss Brooks.
Good. Let's get down to the corner. I want you to slip me into the mailbox.
Next week, tune into another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Palmolive Soap, your beauty hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written and directed by Al Lewis, with music by Wilbur Hatch.
Men, do you shave with a lather or brushless shave cream? Palmolive shaving cream comes both ways. And whichever way you prefer to shave, you'll find that using either Palmolive brushless or Palmolive lather shaving cream can bring you more comfortable, actually smoother shaves. Here's the proof. 2,548 men tried the new Palmolive way to shave described on the tube. And no matter how they had shaved before, 3 out of every 4 got more comfortable, actually smoother shaves. Get Palmolive brushless or Palmolive lather shaving cream today.
For mystery liberally sprinkled with laughs, listen to Mr. and Mrs. North, the exciting, fun-packed adventures of an amateur detective and his beautiful wife. Tune in Tuesday evening over most of these same stations. And be with us again next week at this same time for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Bob Lamont speaking. Stay tuned now for Life with Luigi, which follows over most of these stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Cottage belongs to Mrs. Davis, and it's up to her.
Oh, don't think about me, Connie. If you want this lovely dog, please take him.
Good night, all.
Oh, thank you, Miss Brooks. And you won't be sorry. Peanuts is loads of fun. Well, I'd better be running along now.
Oh, but where do we get in touch with you
if
if
Peanuts
Peanuts
have
has...
to get in touch with us. We'll contact you as soon as we return from the farm. Goodbye, my dear.
Now you've done it, Mrs. Davis.
I've done it. Why, Connie, Mrs. Evans is your friend.
My friend? I only met her once in my life.
Well, it's done now, Connie. Might as well make the best of it. By the way, where is the dog?
Well, he's probably in the kitchen. The door is ajar.
Well, that's funny. I left it closed.
He opens it with his teeth. They taught him when he was a puppy. Come on.
There was a whole leg of lamb on the stove, Connie.
That's right, Mrs. Davis.
Peanuts, you didn't eat that whole leg of lamb.
Oh, Mrs. Davis, we can't afford to feed this dog. Not if we want to eat, too.
Oh, that's Walter Denton, Connie. Shall I answer him?
No, I'll let Walter in. Walter? Say, he hasn't got a dog of his own, has he?
Not that I know of, Connie.
A kid like that? I bet he'd love the idea of taking care of Peanuts for a week. His folks have a big backyard, too. It'd be just the thing. Coming, Walter. Now, whatever you do, Mrs. Davis, keep the dog out of sight until I've prepared him. Well, Walter Denton. Come in, Walter. Come in.
Oh, thanks, Miss Brooks. I'd have been here sooner, but I was dog-tired this morning.
That's a coincidence. Walter, who would you say is a fella's best friend? Dog is that, Mrs. Evans?
He's a Dane, of course.
I should have known. He's built just like Lauritz Melchior.
Here, Peanuts. Come on, boy.
How can he get out? The windows are closed.
Well, he opens the door with his teeth. We taught him how when he was just a little puppy, and he's never forgotten it. He's got a wonderful memory.
He should have. His father was an elephant.
Where are you going, Miss Brooks?
I left a crossword puzzle up this tree.
Don't be afraid. He likes you. You see, he wants to make friends. He's talking to you.
Does he talk like that to all his friends?
Come on, Peanuts. There's a good boy. Give Miss Brooks your paw, Peanut.
No, thanks. I've got a couple. Look, Mrs. Evans, I don't think we
Well,
could
let's go in the house now so I can give you a few last-minute instructions. Come on, Peanut. You might as well get used to your new home. You're going to be here for a week.
Oh, but Mrs. Evans, I can't accept the responsibility for a dog this size. Besides, this isn't my house. I just rent a room here. Mrs. Davis owns the place, and she couldn't possibly have a dog
the dishes, Connie, and... Oh, I didn't know you had company. Who are these folks, Connie?
These folks, Mrs. Davis, are Mrs. Evans and her dog, Peanuts.
How do you do?
So we meet again, Mrs. Davis.
Again?
We all take from the same laundry.
You know, I was just telling Miss Brooks here how little trouble Peanuts is around the house. He's really a lap dog, you know, but he doesn't require any special attention whatsoever. He'll eat some of whatever you eat, get up when you get up, and go to sleep when you go to sleep.
I hope he's got his own toothbrush. Look, Mrs. Evans, this...
Oh, you still don't know who I am, do you? Let's see. Belmont Laundry. Does that do anything to you?
Well, they tear my slips once in a while.
Oh, I knew that would do it. It is good to chat with you again, Miss Brooks.
Again? When did you chat with me last, Mrs. Evans?
Right after the holiday.
The Easter holiday?
No, dear. Last Thanksgiving. We were both at the Belmont Laundry to complain about the service. And on the way out, we had a conversation. I said, isn't this laundry getting terrible? And you agreed with me. Now, do you remember?
Of course. I just forgot some of the details.
Well, I know you'll forgive me if I'm brief, Miss Brooks. I've been rather upset lately. It's George.
It is?
Yes, my husband, he isn't a bit well, and that's why we have to make this trip. The doctor seems to think that a week in the country will do him a world of good, so we're going upstate this afternoon. Molly has a farm up there, you know. It's a beautiful place.
If there's one thing Molly knows, it's how to pick a farm.
Oh, but she didn't pick it. Uncle Fred left it to Molly. But George is so attached to Peanuts. And, well, Miss Brooks, for just this 1 week, will you take care of Peanuts for us?
Well, it's all according. How many bags of them are there?
No, you don't understand. Peanuts is our dog, the cutest thing you ever saw, and he's no trouble at all. I've got him right outside in our station wagon. Come on out and take a look at him.
Oh, but Mrs. Evans, the
We
dog...
take him with us, but Molly's afraid of dogs. Come along, Miss Brooks. I took the liberty of parking in your driveway.
Yes, I see. Who's that at the wheel, your husband?
No, that's Peanuts.
Oh. Did he drive you down? I mean, what kind of a...
Palmolive soap, your beauty hope, and Luster Cream shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. The daily problems of most teachers are not restricted to the ones they face at school. Our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, is no exception to this rule.
No, indeed. Many of my problems don't begin until I leave school, or before I start to school. This, in spite of the fact that my home life consists of just A, my landlady, Mrs. Davis, and B, our cat, Minerva. Unfortunately, A is extremely absent-minded, and B is allergic to cat hair. Last Friday morning, the three of us were having breakfast together.
Careful, dear. Don't drink so fast or you'll get milk all over you.
Thanks for reminding me, Mrs. Davis. May I have that napkin, please?
Oh, here you are, Connie. You look pretty silly with your whiskers all white.
Well, who wouldn't? Oh, you're talking to Minerva.
Yes. All finished, Minerva. There's a good girl. Now go on into the kitchen and wait for me.
While you're out there, do the dishes. All right, I'll do the dishes.
Oh, don't bother, Connie. You better get ready to go to school. Walter Denton should be picking you up any minute. Of course, you could dust the living room for me if you've got a minute. Those andirons I bought yesterday are pretty dusty.
Andirons? But, Mrs. Davis, we haven't got a fireplace.
That's what I told the salesman, Connie. But he'd carried them all the way up to our door by then.
From where?
From his car. He said it was his first time in this neighborhood.
A door-to-door andiron salesman. Well, that's a new wrinkle.
Yes, he was, Connie. And rather gray, too. That's why I just had to buy them. You'll find the set over by the piano. There's a brush and a sifter came with them.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's burn the piano. I'm sorry, Mrs. Davis. What you buy is your own business, but I don't like to see people take advantage of you all the time.
But, Connie, nobody takes advantage of me.
Certainly they do. You're always doing favors for somebody, and most of the time they're practically strangers. Like that night you consented to sit for that couple down the street. You sat all right till 5 a.m.
But they couldn't find anybody else to stay with their children.
A fine litter it was, too. 2 sets of twins, 8 months old and 2 years old.
Oh, it wasn't so bad. They had a lovely phonograph, and I listened to music all evening long. It had a record changer and everything.
You probably set a few changing records yourself that night. Mrs. Davis, you've just got to learn how to say no to people.
Oh, I guess I'm just an easy mark. Well, I'll get on with these dishes.
Oh, that's probably Walter now. Coming! Yes?
Miss Brooks, isn't it? I'm a neighbor of yours, Mrs. Evans. George and I live about a mile from here.
Are you asking me or telling me? Come in, neighbor.
Oh, thank you.
Come into the living room. Sit down, Mrs. Evans.